Hey guys, so this is episode 10 of season 2 of Resolute TV. That is insane and crazy. So here we are. We have 3 awesome guests. Arlene Blencowe, our resident, fight girl. We have Lochie. He's a young man making waves at the moment, so hopefully you guys get a lot out of that. And also Lloyd Russel. So it's a pretty packed up show, and it's our last show for season 2. Hope you enjoy.
Rightio, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, everybody in between. Resolute TV, episode 10, the last one for series 2, because any more than 10 in a block is too much bloody hard work. And somebody who knows a lot about hard work, Arlene Blencowe, welcome back. World title fight complete. Great to see you again, mate. Great to see you again. We did catch up in person, but now we're catching up for this little crowd of people who watch what we get up to.
Yeah. I meant to catch up with you while I was in quarantine, and then who's possibly as busy as me in quarantine? But yeah, I was super busy.
I did keep up with you in quarantine.
Yeah. Oh, you too.
I was watching. You were doing plenty of work here.
Yeah.
So even in a 14-day quarantine, you still work harder than the average bear.
I feel like I've lived a whole, so much has happened since a title fight, but we'll have to rewind so we can talk about that and then talk about what's moving up, what's coming up.
Well and truly.
Forward.
Well, I guess the best place for us to start is let's start with what was the big target and the big challenge and the big event. Obviously, your world title fight against Chris Cyborg at Bellator 249, mate. You didn't get up?
No, it slipped through my fingers. But yeah, it's interesting because I was going into that fight with the best preparation. I had a really good team of people around me, from coaches to training partners, sponsors. Everybody had so much support, and my mental state and physical state were right on track. To walk away and having a loss, so I got submitted in the second round, definitely wasn't what was planned. Like, I honestly thought that I was coming home with that world title. So it's interesting to look at where my mental state is right now post fight. It's the first time I've lost a fight since 2017. So I've lost a fight 3 years. The fight in 2017 was actually for the Bellator world title, so this title is becoming a little bit elusive. But how I was post-fight back 2017 as opposed to now, big props to me, and I guess big props to my team too for building me up to be the person that I am right now, because a loss is a loss, and it's horrible, but I've taken it on board, and I'm ready just to start again and work my way back up to that shot at that title. So yeah. I guess the 2 weeks in quarantine gave me a lot of time. A lot of people were messaging me, asking me how I was, having to be locked in a hotel for 2 weeks. But it gave me a lot of time to sit back and really think about things, because, losing that fight sort of shuffled, my future plans around a little bit on the career side of things, my personal life. I had it all planned out, but I'm the first person to know that you can have everything planned out and it doesn't go to plan. It doesn't go how you plan it to go. So we're back to the drawing board, and 2021 is going to be a big year.
Yeah, mate. Look, and we've spoken a couple of times on the phone, so it's really cool. I think your attitude is amazing. You went there. You still sound confident. You sound surprised that you got beat, which is it's testament to how hard you'd worked, the state of mind, everything you'd done, everything, all the preparation, everything was amazing, and you still didn't come out on top, even though you seem pretty confident that you coulda, shoulda, woulda. Most people would lose confidence, you know what I mean? Like, so you obviously got a layer of confidence in your ability, how hard you'd work, which I think is amazing. Some people go cocky confidence, that becomes a thing. But you're humble enough. It's not like you're walking around going, I'm the best fighter ever, but you went into it really well prepared and it come unstuck. A lot of people would take that in a negative way, and you've taken it really positively, which I think is testament to your character. Mate, how did you do that? A lot of people would fall into a bit of a negative thing. You see it with athletes all the time. Things don't go to plan. They turn into maniacs or get depressed or whatever. Did you have any of that sort of stuff, or you would just straight back into it? Let's sort it out.
No, straight back into it. I have my moments. It's hard. Like I said, especially fighting on the world stage, I had, the most support I've ever had. A lot of people watching, and it came down to just a crucial few little mistakes that I made in there. But in saying that, I was standing across the cage from the most feared woman in the fight scene. Like, there's been so many fighters that have avoided fighting her, and I got in there, and it was actually, and this is probably why it's taken, it's sitting so well with me, is that I know how I felt in previous fights. My last 3 fights, I've won them, but I, at moments, wasn't really feeling like being in there or feeling like even competing or this and that. So, I had my moments, and only I would know how I feel sort of going into fights and that. And I was actually really looking forward to getting in there with her. Even after the first round, which I knew that I lost the first round, but we had like a bit of a game plan in the sense of just to wear her out. So, she was putting a lot into trying to finish me in that first round when I was down on the ground, but I knew I wasn't in trouble. But yeah, even after the first round, I got back up and I was ready to, start digging in and, going to work. So just how I felt going in there, and also the fact that I was, looking forward to getting in and standing in front of her and going toe to toe. But yeah, unfortunately, I did get tagged. And for the first time in all the fights that I've had, I've showed fear on my face. Not so much fear, but showed that I was hurt. An opponent like Chris Cyborg is not someone that you show that to, because she's like a dog with a bone. And it's was that right around the same thing?
Was that where the nose break happened?
Yeah. So I stood back, and I remember grabbing onto my nose with my hand.
Oh, you're frozen there a little bit. Oh, driving around Sydney. Oh, you there? Hello. You back? Hello. You there? Is that you or me? Hello. I can see you. I can't hear you. Well, let's try this. There, audio's gone off. Oh. Now, is that any better? Back again?
I think that was me, because I drove in the tunnel.
Right, yeah, that'll do it.
It was working fine, and then I literally, sorry.
That's outrageous. I'm very offended. I take this stuff very, very seriously. We'll adjust that a little bit. See how we go. That should be all right. Yeah, mate. So you were saying you showed a little bit of fear. You grabbed your nose. And Cyborg did what Cyborg's been known to do and capitalised, yeah?
Yeah, so there's, like I've been pretty vocal with posts and stuff because I do want to be a bit of an open book when it comes to, how I overcome things like that, because I feel sometimes, up and coming fighters, they might feel a certain way and then they think that that's not a normal way to feel. But, I only realised recently after, some personal conversations with Holly Holm that how I feel is very, very much a normal way for a fighter to feel. So I just want to make sure that other fighters who may feel like this, not everyone feels like this, I guess, but, that it is normal to, have these certain emotions and that. But, it was the beginning of the end, but I've looked at, this fight or the fight, and there's things that I can improve on, the next fight, which I thought I was mentally prepared to, be black and blue and busted up and have broken bones and, whatever it takes to win the fight. But it's sort of easy to say when you're on the outside. But, obviously, preparations for the next fight will be that I will, be able to sustain any sort of injury and not take a backward step.
So I mean, based on what you've just based on that, mate, you are going to fight again, which obviously we spoke about it, but the audience doesn't know that yet. You're not going to sort of turn around and go, oh yeah, righto, I got beat, I'm done. Here you are going, you know what, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back hard. And are you targeting this world title still? Is the goal to gun for Chris Cyborg round 2 and see if you can avenge the loss?
For sure. I'm just at this stage, obviously it's a process of working my way back up to that world title shot. It's just, so obviously the end goal would be to still be the Bellator world champion, but it's one fight at a time. So as I've said in other sorts of interviews and that, I take my training weeks, even it's all one day at a time, one session at a time. So my end goal is obviously to fight for that world title, but my next focus is to is my next fight, which is hopefully going to be in February. And we're not sure who it's against at this stage. After you fight someone like Cyborg, it really doesn't matter who you fight, because I'll be physically prepared for anyone. But I just want to go in there and remind everyone that I'm a dominant featherweight and my name's Angerfist, and hopefully break my own
not done by a long shot, mate. Not done by a long shot.
So I'm also looking to when we caught up last time at my boxing gym. So my boxing coach is pretty keen to get me back on the locals, on the boxing scene, the domestic boxing scene, and hopefully back overseas. And so just next year should be an exciting year. And that's another reason why I'm not dwelling on my last losses. And as my partner says all the time, it's not like you lost to a bum. She's the best in the world.
You didn't lose a bar fight to some girl at the local pub, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's it. I learned a lot from it, and it was an honour to share the cage with her. It was an honour to be able to fight this year, considering there's a global pandemic going on and the world's gone crazy. And the fact that I was still able to get over there. I've been training extremely hard all year, and I've just, as anything in life, I've just got this thing at the moment. It's how you look at any situation, and that I'm pulling the positives out of it, and that's what's helping me. So, just go with that.
Well, mate, that's one of the things I like about you, and I've liked about you since I met you, and a lot of, from what I understand, and I've had wins and losses. Most people have. It's how you come back from the losses that make the difference. Anybody can look good on the winner's podium. It's how good do you look after you've been punched in the face? And your initial photo after you had your nose broken was actually quite it was quite telling. It was quite telling of the positive mindset, even though you'd been beaten by one of the most ferocious, I don't know her personally, but in a cage, one of the most ferocious women in MMA history. I mean, there's no shame in it. It was amazing. I had a few blokes sitting at where I was.
Sorry?
Oh, I just said a couple of the blokes that were watching while where I was, I set it up at one of the pubs, you know, like I set the screen up and put it all on there and go, oh, well, she just got beat. And I just said, well, it's very easy to sit behind the bar drinking beer while talking about somebody getting beat in a world title fight. You know?
I was going back to what you said just a second ago about that picture with me eating a burger. I've put up that many different photos on my Instagram over the years, and that's actually received the most likes and most comments. Me eating a hamburger, but obviously it's encapsulates the whole moment. Yeah, like it's a fight. You put things into perspective in your life. Like obviously, I spend a lot of time and sacrifice a lot to compete, but there's a lot bigger things going on in the world and in my life, and whether or not I win or lose a fight. So
yeah. So now you're back mentoring the kids, which I know you're pretty passionate about.
Yeah. So I don't know how I've managed to slot another thing into my busy life, but mentoring, I've found that as I said to you a while ago, like my little catchphrase too, through my passion I've found my purpose, which is very true. Like I've had a roller coaster of a life, and I feel like I can help people, young girls, young teenagers, and that's why I do take on this role of being a role model so seriously, because if I can help somebody from making the same mistakes that I've made and choosing a better option and path in life, then that's super rewarding for me.
Yeah, I reckon that's pretty great. And for anybody who's sitting there watching this thinking Arlene's a multi-million-dollar fighter, she might be a multi-million-dollar personality, but she is still driving at work, and she still has a job like the rest of us, and all those sort of things. Just in her spare time,
she's home and wash my dishes and iron the clothes. And
what? You don't have a maid?
I know. But it's funny because I think a lot of people, have this perception that I'm either like, I guess with being a fighter too, this big scary person, or the fact that I'm fighting on the world stage, that have heaps and heaps of money. I'm financially stable, but in saying that, like I do like the idea of being busy too and setting myself up for like my future. I don't want to live like fight check to fight check. So.
Well, and I think people get a funny little thing, and it was actually I was talking to your boxing coach the other day about it when we had a bit of a chat when I called in to visit, and he's, we were just saying, the online world, like online people are posting photos of the car that they've borrowed from their friend, or standing there with a fistful of 50s, making out like there's some, it's the real life stuff. The poignant photo of you with a hamburger after you just lost the world title had far more meaning than, and I mean, obviously the photos of you with your world title belts or with your Aussie flag, they're all great. They look good. They're good marketing tools. Yeah. But I think the one that most people can relate to is, I've just been punched in the face and now I'm eating a hamburger, like that.
Well, the other one too, actually, another one that got a lot of attention was the video I posted post-fight with Tyson Pedro, my coach, and my partner. So it was straight after the fight, and I just could not contain my emotions. I bawled my eyes out, and they got it all on video. Bellator filmed the whole thing, so it was obviously Tyson talking to me, and me still sobbing, and the doctor talking to me, and then my partner sitting there and consoling me, and I kind of laughed because I said to my partner, I'm like, oh, all I have to do is put videos up of me crying. Because it just got, it's such a positive feedback, because obviously everybody only sees, all the good things and the positive things and people succeeding, but they don't see what it's like behind the scenes. And
we live in a world where people only like to show the good stuff. They only like to share the good stuff. They're always, everybody's so insecure about sharing the facts that sometimes things go wrong, or sometimes things didn't go to plan, or whatever. So I'm sure you probably didn't plan for Bellator to film you in an emotional state, but that's the real stuff, and that's what people need to see, that the Anger Fist, not only can she kick ass in the fight and become a world title contender, and you've been a world champion in boxing, but you can also, be human enough to break down when you get beat. Like, it's normal.
But yeah, I know that it was, I used to look at, Olympians and people like that as being superhuman, and they're just different people to everyday people. But I like to let people know that I'm still very much an everyday person. Like you said, right now I'm at work and I'm actually driving to a quick business meeting and a training session before I go back to work. But it's, like, I'm that normal. It's not funny. I'm a mother with 2 kids. I run a household. I've got a partner, an amazing partner, but we still have our little quarrels at times. And, I go through the exact same emotions as everyone. And that's what I used to like when I first sort of started off. I never used to think that I belonged at the top of my division in my sports, because I'm like, I'm just still me. I'm still normal me that, from before fighting. And now that the more I talk and the more I associate with high level athletes, I realize that we're all the same. We are all just normal people. And the people that pretend that they're not, I mean, obviously you've got your Conor McGregors and all of them who don't live, their life's completely different. But I mean, for the most part, like people like me who are, in Australia and, competing, and, well, not even just in Australia, but like I said, I'm close with Holly Holmes, and she's very much a normal female. And so just for up and coming athletes and young kids growing up, just to let them know, that it's possible, not to look at, an elite level athlete and think it can't be them, because it can be them.
My father used to have a quote. Obviously, he's not with us anymore, but it was one that stuck with me as a kid, and it probably drives an awful lot of the sort of random stuff that I kind of do. And I just say, as a kid, I can't do that. And it was always, listen, boy, there's no such thing as can't. There is, how are you going to?
Exactly.
No such thing as can't. I'll end up putting that on a T-shirt, because, and he was sort of right, like, okay, look, I'm not a 6-foot black man, so I'm probably not going to be very good at basketball, or, you could probably never be a heavyweight male boxer, but relative to, who you are and what you are, you can do anything you like.
That was actually something that, like my son, so, he's playing soccer and he's just signed with a good team and this and that. And I remember, it would have been the start of this year. So he started high school this year, that's right. And one of the, so he's in a soccer program at this sports high school that he's at. And one of the, so each term they have to reach a certain number of juggles. So juggling the ball on their feet.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think it was 250 by the end of term 1. And then it went up to 5. Anyway, by the end of the year, they had to be at 1,000. Anyway, he was lucky to string together, I don't know, 8 or 9 back at the beginning of the year. And he's a goalkeeper, and he was even like, why do I need to do this? And I'm like, well, mate, it doesn't matter. Like, there's a lot of things I do in my training that I don't necessarily translate over to fighting, but you just do it. Your coach tells you to do it, you do it. And,
well, you don't run 10-kilometre runs because you're going to go running in a boxing ring. You're arguably in a very small confined space. What do you need to run 10 kilometres for?
Exactly. But anyway, he's persisted with it, and he's up. God, what did he get the other day? He's close to his the target anyway. He's the best one out of all the goalkeepers and stuff. But like, this is a kid that, like, I'm pretty sure it was like up to 700 juggles. So that's pretty good. Crazy. And that's, I keep saying to him now, see, mate, see what happens when you just put your head down and you practice it. And that was like a really good lesson for him to learn early on, like that, you're not necessarily going to be good at something, but you just keep practicing things. And so I try to tell him, but until kids learn things, and experience it themselves, I think quite often that they don't really listen to what adults or parents like really say until they,
And I think that's different personalities too. Some kids respond really well to different adults and different techniques. And, I had some coaches in different sports over the years I really responded to well. And because of my naturally defiant nature, there were some that they could have given me the keys to the city and I would have thrown them back on principle, And It's just, you know, the personality trait means an awful lot, you know.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably really true, actually, because Kian's had, you know, certain teachers that have, you know, spent the time to learn him, like learn how to best approach him. And then other teachers he's just been a closed book on.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's you know, and different coaches can be really great with some, and teachers and whatever can be really great with certain personality types. Some are great with everybody, and some sort of really thrive in some areas as opposed to others. And you know, I sit back and think some of the teachers I have that I gave a hard time at school, and I kind of almost feel a little bit bad now, but we just didn't click. There was no, I didn't want to listen to some of them, and some could tell me to run over broken glass, and I would have probably considered doing it. You know,
that was one of the things I look back on, which I do a lot of reflecting, more so obviously my childhood years, my teenage years, and just really dissecting everything. And that's, you know, obviously with this mentoring and even coaching young children in the kids class, like, you know, you always remember that teacher that you got along really well with, or you always remember, you know, the teacher you didn't get along really well with. But, and even throughout your life, when you have someone that teaches you something and it sticks with you forever. So I want to be that person, you know, that even if there's, you know, one thing that I teach a child, that it sticks with them forever, then you know, it's rewarding, because you know, there was a lot of years that I didn't have anyone that, you know, could pass on anything like that to me. And I just think, you know, if I had have had that person, you know, would have things been different? And obviously I wouldn't change anything in my life, because obviously it's led me to this point. It's like, what's that movie? Is it The Butterfly Effect? Ashton Kutcher, and they, you know, is that what, if you change one thing, and some lessons are meant to be learnt the hard way. You know, you've got to go through it to really appreciate the moment. But if you can, I'm just hopefully thinking that if you can try and avoid some of them.
Well, yeah, there are some things that are straightforward where you go, really, why did you do that? That's right up there. But again, everybody's at a different path and a different journey, and I mean, the one you're on's pretty impressive. But as you've said time and time again, you didn't just start out clicking your fingers and being world championship material. You've been on a journey to get there, and that's the amazing bit, really. You didn't click your fingers and wake up one day going, "Oh, hi, I'm Arlene Blencowe, and I'm now fighting for world titles." You know, there's been this really cool path, and that's the important bit, I think.
Definitely.
Mate, the other little thing we were talking about on the phone the other day, and I thought I've always avoided touching on the political stuff with you, just because, you know, it's not a political program. We always sort of thought we'd make it just a bit of a variety and a bit of a mix for obvious reasons. But you did mention a few things the other day, and I thought, you know what? Well, if you want to bring them to light or question them,
for sure.
Well,
everyone's got a right to voice their opinions, and I think that's the whole thing these days. People are starting to get so caught up on, everyone has a different opinion on things. Like, just because I have an opinion on something doesn't necessarily mean it's the right opinion, but we live in a free country. You're allowed to have it.
Well, God, I hope we live in a free country. That's what I'm fighting for in most of my spare time. It's all about trying to retain our freedoms, mate.
It's the question, how free really is it? Is it like, COVID's kind of changed that a little bit, but anyway.
It's changed an awful lot of things, mate. It has changed an awful lot of things. Mate, how do you feel? I'll ask you about it. How do you feel about the whole Trump-Biden thing?
Yeah, to be honest, I think I don't really know too much about sort of, the country's a little bit doomed either way, I think, personally. Like, the country needs a lot of help. Being from someone that has been there a lot, there's good things with both guys. Trump did his share of, helping the economy and helping the country, but God, he's a nutcase. Like, listening to the two of them, and someone's laughing. Listening to the two of them, arguing their points back and forth and bickering at each other, and you think these two are grown men who are, I'm going to turn this way actually, who are going to lead a country, and they're carrying on like two school children. Like, I mean, you're supposed to lead by example, and that's, sorry, I'm just trying to turn here. Lead by example. and they're like, you know, nitpicking at each other about wearing masks and like some of the comments, and you think, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy that in 300 million people, that's the best that American can come out with. In saying that, I'm not that impressed by a lot over here either. So
mine's just like, oh no, and I say the same thing for, you know, politics here in Australia as well. It's like, I think that people, if you need to experience what it's like to live life at all levels, you know, lower class, middle class, you know, and just really know, like, you can't just go out into the streets and hand some meals out to homeless people, or, you know, walk around neighborhoods and think you really have an idea. Like, you don't.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. And I think sometimes that these politics just don't have any common sense. Like, I know I was listening to, you know, President Obama. He, you know, was groomed to be a president, like, from a young age. Like, his sole purpose was, like, imagine having a child. I was just thinking, my child, I'm just going to groom you to be the next Prime Minister of Australia. Like, that's just crazy. But, yeah, to think that, well, I suppose he was, how old was Obama, actually? He wasn't an old president.
Nah, he was relatively young, I think, compared to what a lot of them are.
But, like, why are they all so old? Like, why? Like, Biden, he doesn't look like he's going to be able to even, like... And also, as you get older, too, like, I don't know, you've got to kind of keep up with the times, and anyway, I don't know. Just...
I mean, there's an argument for the older, they've got more life experience. But, you know, when you look at, you know, Obama, you're being groomed to, you know, you're going into a career of politics. I don't know if you're a Billy Connolly fan, but he used to sort of say anybody who wants to be in politics shouldn't be anywhere near it. If you're trying to make a career out of it and you go, I want to be a politician, you're probably the sort of person who should be nowhere near politics at all, which I kind of agree with. I hate politics with a passion, because I don't think anybody's capable of. There's nobody in Parliament who's going to run Arlene Blencowe's life better than Arlene Blencowe herself, you know, and that's how I've always looked at it. I only get in there because they really annoy me to the point that I kind of like to fight back and stir the pot and give them a bit back.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, everything in between, it's episode 10, Resolute TV, series 2. How exciting. We've made it this far once again. We've done our second little lot of 10 episodes with some brilliant guests. One of the guests who's become somewhat regular in the later episodes of season 2 is Liberal Democratic Party of Australia's President Lloyd Russel. We're excited to have him back. We're also in this episode going to be catching up with Arlene Blencowe, who's not long back from her world title fight in Bellator 249. She was defeated, but what an absolute champion of a human she is. And a young bloke named Lochie he'll be coming on. He's been doing a lot of questioning of COVID and causing a little bit of a stir. So well done, Lochie. You'll get to hear from him later in the episode. And we've also got, as our special feature guest this week, a fellow some of you may know, he's a bit of a Marcus Aurelius fan, if that doesn't give it away to a few watchers of the show. But the wonderful outsider, or former outsider, was unceremoniously dropped by a spineless television network. But Ross Cameron, former Liberal Party member who's currently banned until goodness knows when, another one of our lovely dissident squad family. And Ross will be joining us for this episode. But right here, kicking it off, we have Lloyd Russel. Hi, Lloyd. How you going, mate?
Mate, how you going? Thanks for having us on again. And yeah, we'll run the show into Christmas, I think, mate. So that's a pretty good run for us. It's the third one, and we'll get stuck into it after the new year again.
Mate, look, that's it. I've been speaking to Nathan a little bit, and we've got a bit of a concept for obviously the idea of Resolute as a Sunday night variety type show with a few different people, i.e. an MMA fighter, a Bitcoin guy, a political guy, you know, we got all those sorts of things happening. But I wouldn't mind organising a regular LDP live stream, probably once a fortnight or once a week, separate to the Sunday programming, which obviously yourself and a few other interesting people would be really cool to have on. I've spoken to David Lionel before, and Peter Whelan and a couple of others, and a few of the more current current guys as well. So that's something we'll be looking at sort of for the new year after we get Series 2 out of the way, and look at how we're going to shape up for 2021, mate.
Yeah, look, it's you know, hopefully 2021 is a lot better year, so we can actually move around a lot more, you know, and you know, there's a heck of a lot sort of going on with all the different people inside the party as well. You know, some of the state people, you know, are doing some really good jobs. I was on the state, the South Australian sort of state meeting there tonight, earlier on this evening, and you know, they got some fresh blood in there, and they're really having a good old go. So I'm sure they'd be interested in giving you a little bit of an update, sort of how they're going with their re-registration and all that. You know, you got Nathan and his crew in New South Wales, really, you know, giving it a good old crack there. And you know, on the 17th of this month, you've got the Victorian state AGM. So you know, we'll see who the new executive is there, and that might you know, help you with some other fresh blood as well. And there's a few guys in the Queensland state executive that I think would really add to your audience as well. So mate, yeah, I think, you know, there won't be any shortage of talent, champ. I can assure you of that.
Oh, look, mate, that's exactly it. It's as we go along with a program like this, it started out on a bit of a whim, a bit of a, you know, the old libertarian, you know, why doesn't the libertarian movement in Australia have something like this quite happening? And, you know, we went out and did it, and here it is. And, you know, it's developing, rolling. Some episodes have worked out almost, I wouldn't say flawlessly, but, you know, we go, shit, that went well. And then others go, oh, well, the audio was a bit out, or the internet played up, or, you know, the joys of doing this, all this sort of stuff on a laptop, a microphone, and a home computer, you know, like, I guess that's just the nature of the beast, mate, that we make things happen when we want to see things happen.
Good. Yeah.
Well, mate, LDP, a lot of election, well, one election's just round up. There's been quite a few in the last 12 months, and there's some more coming up.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
Well, it's for a year where we've been locked down. You know, it's been a heck of a year for elections. You know, we had the Queensland government, local government elections towards the end of March. We had the Eden Monaro, you know, the Eden Monaro election. We had the ACT election. We've had the Victorian local elections. We've had a Queensland state election, and just last weekend we had the Groom by-election up here around Toowoomba and the Eastern Darling Downs. So, you know, and you know, it's been a hell of an effort and fairly successful for the party right across the board, because you know, we at least the party's been on the map there. You know, it's you know, Anthony and Jacinta Bull ran in the Queensland state election, and Jacinta got just over 7%, and Anthony got nearly 8%, and in a very crowded field. So he just missed out. And you know, you guys, you know, it was COVID, it wasn't COVID, it was bushfires and all that sort of stuff with you guys at the Eden Monaro one. So you know, that was you know, probably what, you know, we would have liked to get a bit better, you know, a bit better mark there. But at the end of the day, it's a hell of a big electorate.
You need to get a better looking bloody candidate if you're going to try and get some runs on the board. You can't get running ugly bastards at these things, mate.
Yeah,
you
mate, sort of,
people eat with their eyes, I can tell you.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing that we did, you know, with the you know, the ACT election, you know, that was fairly horrific for us, I suppose. It's declined down, but you know, we do really want to try and get 5% every time we step out. You know, is sort of what we want to do, and that's incumbent upon the national executive and state executives to start thinking ahead a little bit. But you know, you've got to look at what the Victorian guys have done, and I know I've said it in the last episode as well. You know, it's pretty much every single person that they stood in that local government election in Victoria got over 5. Well, they all got over 5% from what I can gather. You know, and we got 2 in, and 1 just missed out. So so that just highlights that there's no shortage of talent and there's no shortage of a feel for the organisation.
Isn't it ironic though, Lloyd, that the Socialist State of the Socialist State of Victoria has Libertarians performing very, very well, and yet we kind of are getting towed up in all the places that aren't as socialist in theory. There's something going on there.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I was speaking to some people the other day up in Toowoomba, and you know, the election that Anastasius Palaszczuk ran up here was, you know, basically behind the message it was vote for me or you will die. You know, it's basically what it boils down to, and you know that's not my words. That was one of the Channel 9 reporters said that. So you know, so
now vote for whoever you want. Eventually, you're still going to die.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's you know,
at some point you're going to die. I will too. We all will.
Yeah, and you know, it's that fear factor, and most people are sort of, I think, are looking at the here and now and all that sort of stuff. But we did notice it in the state election up here where we went in behind. Because we're not registered in Queensland yet, and you know, that's the focus from here on in now. And you know, we got in behind an independent there, and you know, he picked up nearly 2%, so that was pretty good. But the big one, you know, was Groom just the other day, and we got over 5% there. So that's really put a map on. And you know, like.
He seems pretty enthusiastic. What's his story? Where he's come out like a dog shot in the arse, so to speak. How did he come about?
Well, he actually came about. He's been sort of a supporter of the organisation of the party for a little while, but it came out when Bede and a few of the other guys did a big rally around with the vaping and all that sort of thing back in July when Greg Hunt tried to sneak that legislation through, and you know, there's a pretty fair story behind Craig, but I won't go into that. But he just wanted to give it a really good go. Now, to give you an idea, it's either the safest or second safest Liberal national or coalition seat in Australia. So realistically, they could put anyone up, but the Liberal National Party spent over $300,000 in that 4-week campaign. You know, and they didn't really increase. You know, they did increase their overall two-party preferred vote, but. But not their primary vote. So, you know, Craig is going to go again. So he'll go again, and I suspect the federal election be in November next year. So,
yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be good. And you know, look, I mean, I've thrown myself at a couple now, and I do it from probably a slightly different perspective from most people, because I am in there really just to rattle as many cages as I can. That's my whole motivation. But there are a lot of candidates within the LDP who are very, very pro getting elected, whereas I'm trying to get eyeballs on the product.
Yeah.
I think there are far more suitable politicians in and around the planet than somebody like myself, but I also have a habit of being able to stir enough mischief to get eyeballs on the product, where some of our probably more well-spoken, well-mannered candidates probably can't rattle that sort of attention. So I see my role as slightly different. But somebody like Craig, it always disappoints me when I see somebody who is pretty talented, pretty switched on, does have a lot to offer, only runs once, and sort of they seem to get a bit disillusioned, or they feel like they're just going to walk in and all of a sudden, you know, champagne would fall from the heavens and they'd be running the country. And that's just not the reality of it, unfortunately. It takes time to develop your profile if you don't already have one, get the constituents to know who you are, get the Australian people to know who you are, what you stand for. So, I mean, people like Craig and Paul Silverberg down in Victoria, a few of the other guys that were you know, almost on the money. I really hope they all have another crack. I think it's absolutely important that they go again and keep building up that profile as they go along.
Yeah, and look, you know, we have adopted a slightly different approach, you know, as well. So, you know, historically the party has, you know, done two things: to sort of trotted out the same old people all the time, and become very active basically when an election's called. Well, that's really changing, and you know, it's changed in WA. It's certainly changed in Victoria. It's changed up here. It's changing in South Australia basically as we speak, and that sort of thing. So because, you know, 2022 we've got 2 elections and possibly 3. So we've got the New South Wales New South Wales local government elections, or local council elections. They were supposed to be this year, but they're being postponed. So I think they're in March. And then at the end of March over in WA, you've got the state election that's there. So, you know, and the crew over in WA, they've been working on this now since they started sort of working on this way back in December last year. But they've got, I think, 40-odd lower house representatives that they've endorsed, and they're doing soft launches. They've got all 6 divisions. They've got 2 people in each division for the upper house, and yeah, they're certainly very well prepared. Nathan Thomason is the campaign director for the national executive, and he's starting to look at all the different states nominating their Senate tickets and possibly the House of Representatives that they're going to look at. So, you know, we'll be certainly locking most of that stuff in the first couple of months next year, because you know, the strong word is that the federal government general election will be in November next year. It won't be in May, you know, March to May in 2022. It'll actually be in November next year. So, you know, we've got to get prepared and basically do a 6 or 8 months campaign process and go from there. So yeah, so you know, it's you know, we're unashamed. You know, that's what we've got to do under our constitution. You know, we've only got 2 things to do under our constitution, and that's to enhance the philosophy of libertarianism and to get people elected. So you know, different law changes have made it hard in certain areas, but you know, you've still got to have a crack, and you've still got to persevere with it. So no, you know, there's a lot on, and so yeah, hopefully 2021 won't be nearly as restrictive as 2020, and you know, the other side of it is it's not forgoing you know, the effort that the head office has done as well. So there's a lot, yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to in 2021 for the Liberal Democrats.
Well and truly, mate. Well and truly, it's an interesting time. All these transitional times. I've just noticed currently, as we speak, this won't come out till Sunday, but as we speak, former Liberal Democrat Senator David Leyonhjelm happens to be on the Dia Beltran show this evening, doing an interview, and a couple of our other friends seem to be on there. Displeased that David's on there, which is interesting. What are your thoughts? Is David planning a comeback, since a few people have asked and suggested that, or is there anything to your knowledge of you know, David having a return to the?
Oh, look, you know, we've got to respect exactly what David did from basically 2007 and 8 right through. He's done a heck of a lot of good work. He certainly does want to. I think he feels he's probably got some unfinished business in the New South Wales upper house. But the other side of it too is we've got to select candidates on merit and that sort of stuff. So it's a while away. I think that's 2023. I think their election, or 2000, something like that. So there is. But it's there's certainly moves afoot to keep, to start looking at that as well, because we really do need to have that 6, 8, 12 months lead in time. So we just don't look like we pop up whenever something's on. We've got to build the trust. We've got to respect voters. We've got to respect voters, and voters don't like people to just turn up and expect to dine out on the table, sort of thing. They like to see people do a little bit of preparation in the kitchen, so to speak. And
100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had a couple of emails about that one there, just literally as we were speaking, and I thought it worthwhile that I just have a little bit of a look. Like to keep my finger on the pulse, so to speak, there, Lloyd. But anyway, it's all good fun watching that unfold. So, I've always found David a bit of a pro and a con. I've liked David to, personally, anytime I've had a beer with him, I've been cordial most of the time. We've had a couple of great arguments about stuff, like all libertarians, and you move on from there, mate. You move on from there. As for, I don't know how keen I'd be to see him run necessarily again. I don't know whether all the juice is squeezed out of that orange, but I guess we'll see what time tells as we get a bit closer to game day.
Yeah, and each person's got to make their own decision on these things. So I think Dean is, we're maturing as a party. We do want to try and get 5% and above every time we contest something. You start becoming influential once you start getting 5% or 6% 7% every time you get a vote. You mightn't get somebody in, but people start taking a lot of notice of you. So that's the unashamable goal there. We are a political party. We're not a think tank. We're not a talk fest. We're not we're not a place for activists to feel comfortable and that sort of stuff. We are a political party. So that's exactly how we've got to go about these sorts of things. And, we've certainly done a lot of good work in the last 6 or 8 months to do that. But there's a lot of other things that'll fall into place here. I mentioned, I think, in our first session that we've commissioned 3 projects. Well, the neuroscience project that we released by Christmas time, we should have it by Christmas time. I had a little sneak preview at some of it today. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but it's yes, there's going to be some paradigms challenged, but there's going to be a very good roadmap for that. The taxation one, the main section of it will be finished probably in 2 weeks' time, and Richard Davies and an ATA will look at that draft, but we'll certainly be releasing that before the AGM on the 7th of February. And we've got another one that's being done that's looking at the varying electorates and that sort of stuff from language, and what's our focus, what's been the focus of the electorate and other parties and all this sort of stuff, and how we can actually embrace those things. And we're also looking at we're doing another project in a marketing area that's unashamedly an operational marketing area. So all those things will sort of pull in. Most of those will come to fruition, as I said, sort of, before Christmas or straight after Christmas. And the beauty about that is it will give us an absolute solid platform to work on. It will give us a solid platform to work on. It's about putting the party first. It's about putting the party first. And then our candidates and all that sort of run along with the party, and our elected members, are working for the party at the same time. So there's some fairly good changes coming along there. So I think once you start sort of talking to other people inside the party, they'll probably give you a bit more of an insight than into probably some of the changes that have happened in the last 6 or 8 months anyway. So that should be good. You know, pretty exciting times, I think.
Mate, and as always, we were definitely in a big period of transition here at the end of last year. I was pretty burned out and took a bit of a step back for a little while as far as official party business, you know, like day-to-day type stuff. I needed a pretty solid, and I'm not an admin guy either. So for me, I was doing a lot of stuff on executives and meetings and all this sort of thing. And some people are really well suited for it, and they're natural administrators, and then there's the activist type personality in the libertarian movement, and then you've got your politicians and your business people. I saw Sam Kennard come out today. Sam's a fairly well-known supporter of the LDP over the years. He ran as a candidate once upon a time. Owns Kennard Storage, you know, a pretty reasonable sized Australian business. He tweeted earlier that after China's announcements this week that every Australian business should be starting to reevaluate their supplier lists and their supply chains, which I thought was pretty good of Sam. I was sort of glad to see him take that stance, because we need business heroes who are willing to sort of stand up and go, no, that's absolute nonsense. This is kind of not how the game's played, boys and girls, and we won't be bullied.
Yeah, and you know, some businesses can do that and others can't, you know. So and I think the businesses that can do that, you know, good on them, because again, that's their choice. You know, it's their choice. If you don't want to do something, you don't have to, and if you want to do something, you can. You certainly can. So you know, I think that's a great thing. You know, it's absolutely. You know, I have no problem with, you know, anyone sort of looking at their supply chain and going, well, you know, I can live without a certain segment of upstream or downstream. You know, it's you know, we all do that in business. You know, I don't know anyone who's been in business for 10 or 15 or 20 years that hasn't cracked a good number of bits and pieces off their out of their supply chain. I wouldn't know any business that hasn't done that. You know, because you just have to. At the end of the day, you just have to. You know.
Yeah. And, you know, it's not always monetary either. No. Which is also the point here. So a lot of libertarians get it in their head, Lloyd, that the no harm principle equals, you know, shy retiring wallflowers who just take whatever shit's dished at them because you don't want to retaliate. But from my understanding, we don't go around picking fights, but if we need to finish them, well, fair enough, in my opinion. There's nothing that says you need to be a victim to be a libertarian.
Yeah, you know, and you know, that's probably been a little bit of a weakness of the party. You know, is realistically, when you look at our philosophy and you look at our principles and that sort of stuff, you know, the Liberal Democrats are the obvious party for small, medium, private business and their workforces. You know, unashamedly, you know, that could be our, and crikey, if we got half of that market, we'd be in government, mate, I can assure you. So, you know, that's it in a nutshell. You know, it's we really are, and you know, we are the party for the intrapreneurial type person and all that sort of stuff. You know, so you know, it's the other thing that I think our party can do, I think, and should do with absolute confidence from here on in, is regardless of whether it's one of our social policies or one of our economic economic harder policies, I think we should actually take the lead in the economic, financial and social debate. So it doesn't matter if it's, you know, legalising weed, or it's lower taxation, or it's a better superannuation scheme, or it's industrial relations, you know, through alternative unions or whatever. You know, I think we're really well placed to take up that economic argument, because a 30-year-old said to me only a few days ago you know, he looks at things and he researches things, and he said, you know, if you take Hawke and Keating's fiscal management, Morrison and Frydenberg make Hawke and Keating make Morrison and Frydenberg look like drunken sailors throwing $100 bills over the Titanic. And now, mate, a 30-year-old wasn't even around when Bob Hawke and bloody Keating were in power, for God's sake, you know. So when a 30-year-old says that, you know, we've got a systemic problem when so-called right or conservatives are seen as spending money like drunken sailors, you know, compared to what, you know, what a Labor Party did less than 50 odd years ago, you know. So, you know, I think it's incumbent upon us to, you know, probably be very confident on our economic and financial, you know, side of politics, regardless of whether we're talking about one of our progressive issues or one of our financial taxation issues. It doesn't matter. You know, you take weed, there's an economic story and a financial story around that as well, as much as it is a social story. So, you know, dying with dignity is exactly the same, and all that sort of thing. So, you know, let's not think that we're either the people that love all the social issues or the people that love all the so-called conservative capitalist issues. No, we've got to blend those, because there is no other party in Australia doing it. So I think we've got a grand opportunity, and you know, we have to get out. And how do you win votes? As somebody said, you just win them one at a time, you know. So we've got to start doing the hard yards. You know, we've got to respect the voter, we've got to respect the volunteer, and you know, we've got to get into it. So you know, but yeah, so exciting things for 2021. I think we're starting to turn the corner, and now we just got to capitalise on it.
Mate, I'm looking forward to 2021. I've sort of everything that we've discussed over the last couple of weeks has me sort of feeling pretty good about the general direction of the party. I can't say I feel the same way about the general direction of the country. The general direction of the country has me pretty, I'm not going to say nervous, because I'm not the nervous type, but I'm pretty wary about the way things are going, and all this COVID mandatory vaccine discussions. It should never be in the discussion. The fact that it sort of tumbled out of Morrison's mouth and he accidentally said it, it was a play on words, yet bullshit. That sort of things like that that would never occur to me, to make something mandatory for you to inject into your body. You know, things do come out of your mouth sometimes unintended, and I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, even people I don't trust, but I really don't trust those guys any more than I trust the Labor Party. And for any differences the Libertarian Party have, we're all stubborn enough to have arguments with each other about the pros and cons of things as we go along. So, mate, I'm really enthusiastic to see where it's going to go, and obviously I'll be doing a little bit to help, at least at the New South Wales level, over the next 12 months. And mate, is there anything? Oh, well, we've got an AGM coming up we need to touch on.
Yeah, and this is probably a good way to sort of wind up the session a little bit too, because on the 7th of February, well, the 6th and 7th of February, we're holding the our national conference and AGM. But next year is our 20th birthday. Since you know, John and Guy and John and Michael and a few others sort of started the party. So we're going to have a little bit of a celebration, and we're going to have a barbecue and that in the Rose Garden of the Old Treasury on the Saturday, and we're looking at holding a bit of a gala dinner and that sort of thing on the Saturday night, an awards dinner, and those awards are sort of recognising our past national presidents and our past, you know, and our politicians. But we're also calling for people to nominate, their volunteer, you know, their party volunteer. Now, we've put one little caveat on there: it's not to be an executive member. You know, so So, you know, and because, members and volunteers, they're the guts of the organisation. Like, you know, you can't win votes if you don't have volunteers on booths. You know, we know, you know, we saw that, anywhere that in Clayfield, where we had people on booths, we got basically 5%. Where we didn't have people on booths, we got 0.2%, and that sort of stuff. Up at Broome the other day, a lot of the booths where we were got between 7.5% and 11%. Where we had volunteers, where we didn't have volunteers, we sort of got 3-4%. So, and that averages out. So, that's volunteers. They're not only critical in a election campaign process, but they're extremely critical throughout the year. You know, when we've got events and all that sort of stuff. So we are going to celebrate. We've called for people to nominate a good volunteer that's not on an executive, so not on a state or a national executive. So hopefully we'll get some good nominations, and we can celebrate the volunteers, and maybe we can have that as an annual award or something like that. So yeah, and we've got an actual plethora of speakers. We've got all that'll come out very shortly from head office. So we've got a plethora of speakers. We've got sort of some people speaking at the barbecue. We've got others at the gala dinner. And then we've got the normal, speakers at the conference /AGM. So, it'll all be finished by 2:30, 3 o'clock on Sunday, and people can catch their planes and go. We've negotiated a very attractive package through the through Ridges in Canberra. So accommodation, meals, the dinner, the whole lot. And for the people that are probably still in lockdown, we've actually got the ability to live stream it, so into Ridges in other cities. So it's I think we've sort of I think we've broken a few paradigms this year, and I'm looking forward to breaking a few more next year, and growing the party and advancing the party.
Well, we didn't name one of the episodes on this show the paradigm shift for nothing. I think those sort of things are very important, and I think that's something we'll be able to touch on in the new year. But for now, I think that's a pretty good wrap up for 2020 and what's been going on with our little LDP. Lloyd, it's always great to talk to you, mate. I have no doubt you and I would have a fantastic evening on the beers at some stage. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come and do a little program like this. I think these are the sort of things that, one, it's good for the program, but two, it's also good for the LDP to be able to have access to some, I'm not going to say have access to media anytime it wants it, but to develop that sort of profile where there is material and there is people who aren't sure what you're all about or what we're all about as a party. They can log in and have a bit of a look and go, oh, what do these guys stand for? And do I like it? Do I not? Mate, I think these are the important little things that get the message out there ever so gradually. So, mate, I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate all your work as president. I've never been the president of a national president of a political party, but I've had a few other roles in similar capacities, and they're bloody exhausting. Anybody who puts their hand up for them deserves a rap on my back. In my opinion. It's a bloody hard job, and it's an unpaid job, and it's easy to throw stones at the guys who are doing the work. So, mate, well done. I applaud you. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch up soon.
Righto, everybody, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, everything in between, Resolute TV. We're actually on the final episode for Series 2, and we've actually got a special guest here. We've got Lochie Kavanagh, who's causing all sorts of havoc digitally, and I'm really excited to have him on because I saw a little video starring Lochie. I asked him for a bio, and he said I don't really have one, which makes him a real person. Which is pretty impressive in 2020. No frills, no bullshit. But he's asked a couple of pertinent questions, and it seems to have got a pretty visceral response from some in the positive, some in the negative. Thanks for jumping on board, Lochie.
So I've been doing, been setting up a table and doing what I call change my mind, which is inspired by Stephen Crowder. I couldn't think of a better way to start a conversation. And I've watched the way Stephen Crowder does it, and I thought, you know what, let me do it like that. That sounds like a good idea. He's obviously never done COVID as a scam, but like change my mind. But I figured, fuck it, I'm going to do that. And so I started off with 4 core fluids that I bought from Officeworks, tape them all together with like, what's it called, like duct tape or whatever you call electrical tape, the shit that you rip and it rips really that shit. And it didn't fit the table properly either. It wasn't the right height, and it was sticking too high up the table. It looked ridiculous, but we just wanted to try it and see what's going to happen, and we're pretty nervous. I was like, oh, fuck, this is going to get weird. Like, we're going to be sitting there talking, like, it's kind of nerve-wracking. We're sitting there with a sign that says COVID's a scam, like, we know what's going to happen. And I did it with, like, a mate at the time. He's kind of dropped off. He's, for whatever reason, can't bother to do it anymore. But which is a little bit sad to see. But we just sat there. We sat there and we were in Bondi. This is the first time we did it at Bondi, on that walkway where they walk across and everyone walks across the beach. And we just set up a fucking table, just sitting there right where the lifeguards shower is. And we're just sitting at the table, just chilling. I always relax and sit back and relax posture. And I'm just sitting back watching people go past. How you doing, mate? What do you guys reckon? That's how we do it. I always, someone makes eye contact with me and say, oh, what do you reckon, mate? And they say, oh, it's fucking bullshit, man. Right? I'll say, fuck yeah, I agree with you, mate. It's fucking nonsense. But what we discovered from doing this thing with this stupid fucking 4 core fluids taped together, written COVID's scam on it with some texture, is that so many people agree with us, and you wouldn't know it, but so many people either agree with what we're doing, they know all about it, right? So many more people than you would think. If you just set up a table anywhere, doesn't matter whether you set it up, because we've done Bondi, Coogee, Manly, we've done it in Chatswood. If you set up a table, COVID's a scam, change your mind, and you set it up anywhere, you will have a lot of people come along and say, yeah, mate, fucking good on you. Or like, yeah, we agree. And you'll have heaps of just... Doesn't matter where you do it, right? And so we realized from this that a lot of people, either they know what's going on and they fully agree, or they have no idea what's going on, but they know that something doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think there's a small percentage of people that are really offended by me sitting there. And that's like probably like 10%. And that 10% fucking hates me. They're so offended. Like, how dare I sit there and question the official dogma? The official story. How dare I question the official story? I had a guy walk past me in Chatswood. I think we did it yesterday. Yeah, we did it yesterday. And he had like a full-on respirator, the sort of thing you like, one of these ones with 2 filters on.
Yeah. The sort of thing I use for work sometimes. Yeah. Fucking madness.
I said, oh, mate, what do you reckon? Didn't even look. Just kept on walking. He just laughed and laughed. I had a homeless guy come up to me yesterday, and he said, mate, I'm on your team here, man. Like, I'm homeless. I'm sitting on the street. I'm in everyone's face constantly. If anyone's going to get COVID, it'd be me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how the homeless guy he knows it's bullshit because he doesn't have TV. Think about it. He's not constantly inundated with all these lies. He's just sitting there thinking, don't know, anyone has got COVID. I don't have COVID. What's going on here?
It's fucking crazy, mate. I saw a lady driving around the other day wearing a mask in a car by herself, and you just go, really, you people that fucking lost.
The most ridiculous to see the face shields. That makes me laugh so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a question. I mean, society's absolutely crackers, mate. Now, you're only a young bloke. What are you, 20, 18, 22? So, one, congratulations on having the balls to put yourself out there. That's a big thing in 2020. As you said, your mate's already dropped off going, fuck, I don't want any part of this. And you can understand why, because there is going to be a bit of backlash. So congratulations on having the balls. 2, when somebody like Ricardo Bozzi and Dia Beltran contact me saying, you got to talk to this guy, that's a straight away, I'm happy enough to do so, no problem at all. I love those guys to bits. Mate, you've made a little video, you videoed it, it's gone fucking somewhat viral. Now, I'm too old to know about clickbait and bullshit, but it's essentially what you've done is you've caused enough of a stir where people have gone batshit, all watching you basically. essentially be a little smart ass going, yeah, go on, challenge me. And the couple of girls there who were having a fucking meltdown, that was delightful to watch.
It's always young girls, man. Young girls are the most certain that I'm an absolute moron. They know it. They don't even have to hear what I've got to say.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, with all their life experience and you know, things to draw from, it's not surprising. How far do you think you're going to push this little show? Like, what's your next move? How far do you want to take it?
The only video I've put up is when I first started. I put up a video of just me explaining what we're doing. Hey, I'm could you do COVID's a scam? And they got 5,000 views on Facebook. I went, oh fuck, that's pretty good. So we did another one showing the like a montage, a collage of like all the people agreeing with us. So many people agree with us, like all the people agreeing with us and stuff. And now we've got 10,000 views. So we've got a video coming out soon, and it's going to be proper debates with people, like actual debate footage of me debating with people back and forth. Here's the science. I'm going to be debating with people, and that'll be the next stuff. But we're going to put so many videos out there, man, because I want to get a big enough following to make money from just making videos and waking people up. Because if I can quit my job and just make money like this, like, I don't know, I've got someone working. My name's Annette. I don't know if you know Annette. Maybe you've met her. She's like a photographer and all this sort of stuff. And we're planning on trying to sell merchandise and shit. And if we can sell merchandise or whatever, that'd be pretty good. Because if we can get every fucking one wearing shirts and shit, like it's extra fucking fuck yous to the globalists. Like if you see someone in the supermarket that's got a shirt that says you can stick your COVID normal up your ass or whatever, you know, you're fucking, oh, fuck yeah, what are you doing? How you going, mate? Do you know what I mean? Like it's extra motivation if you see someone else wearing one of the shirts that's like making fun of Bill Gates or whatever, right? And so that's what we want to do. We want to sell all these shirts and try and get everyone wearing these fucking shirts, because it'll give us a way of making like income from just making videos. But also, if we can get everyone wearing these fucking shirts, that's just like extra little fuck yous, and it's holes in the narrative as well. It's like little stabs in the narrative, like little the more holes we can put in that narrative, we want to put so many holes in the narrative that it bleeds to death. Right, we want to have so many holes. Like you cannot look anywhere without the narrative just falling apart. That's what
I fucking love talking to somebody with a little bit of action in them. It's fantastic, mate. One of our regular guests on this program, Stephen Wells, he actually wrote a book called The Great Coronavirus Swindle. So feel free to help sell his book. It'd be actually good to see you guys have a bit of a chat as well. Stephen's great. His first book was called Confessions of a Climate Change Denier, and then when all this shit started, his next book was The Great Coronavirus Swindle, and we've done a few episodes on that. He's brilliant, mate. So it is good to see people taking a stab at the narrative. The next thing that just popped out of your mouth, the globalists, mate. What sort of 22-year-old knows about globalists? Aren't you guys all really happy with that shit?
Now, I don't know too much. I don't know that much about what's going on. I mean, like, I don't know that much about the whole I don't know that much about it. The only thing I've been looking at is I've been reading a book, and I've got it from Ricardo Bossi, The Naked Communists. And this book has been teaching me all kinds of things about how the world works, man. Like, the most important part is the 45 goals of communism, which is like the 45 goals of communism is the blueprint for what's going on. It's like the strategy that these globalists are rolling out, because they're obviously communists as well, which is the goal. Communism is the goal of this globalist takeover of the planet. The goal is to erode our property rights, get rid of private ownership sort of thing, get rid of private ownership, make us get rid of all of our rights, forcibly vaccinate us, do all this shit, let the government decide where the resources are going to go. I mean, I watched great videos on the Great Reset that explains how they want to use AI to allocate resources effectively as opposed to letting the free market do it. But very interesting to hear a great explanation of what's going on, because the naked communist is historical facts, but they talked about things like the Vietnam War and how the Vietnam War was tipped in favor of the communists by the communist infiltration of the UN, managing to turn the Vietnam War in favor of the communists. And the 45 goals of communism is just a great fucking part of it. It talks about the blueprint strategy for what's going on. But yeah, whittling down the family structure, destroying religion. It's just like it's the long game, but it's a way of basically ruining Western values completely, because if they can destroy our Western values, they can destroy democracy and make us all communists and, you know, take away our freedom and stuff. Because if you have a strong society that's based on strong families, strong values, you know, you stay home and raise your kids, you don't fuck everything that moves and just let do you know what I mean? Like proper values. If you have a society with strong and proper values, everyone's disciplined and things. That's why they're giving us all this porn and all this, you know, encouraging a culture of what's it called, like consumption and fulfilling our short-term urges. If they can ruin all of our discipline and in promiscuity, they can ruin everyone's social fabric, make us all man children, which is what we're becoming. Every fucking second dude is a man child who can't even stand up for himself, right? They can ruin all of our values, all of our culture, all of our and make us dependent on government. It's just psychological warfare of the highest level. It's so funny to watch it happen through Hollywood and big tech and the media and the education. It's like I call it the four battlefronts of the cultural warfare. And it's because of this, and it's perfectly laid out in the 45 goals of communism. It's like this. They've got the entertainment industry, which is Hollywood. They've got the education system, which is completely just communist indoctrination. They've got the media, which is just communist rubbish constantly, all the transgender stuff, and you can choose your gender and all this sort of stuff. Selective morality, you know. It's committing crimes is wrong unless you're black and you're fighting racial justice, in which case it's fine, because morality is actually selective. Now, selective morality is part of communism. They want to convince us that morality is sort of selective. If one person burns down a building, that's not right. But if someone does it in a different circumstance where they're fighting, you know, systemic racism, well, that's fine. Go and do that. They're fighting for a better cause. So it's justified. And so it's the four battlefronts of our culture, and we're fighting on it. That's like closing and boxing us in. And people don't even realize it because they think it's all happening organically, and they don't really realize that we're actually kind of being herded into a fucking spot by these four very powerful megaphones of our culture, because that's kind of where the messaging comes from. It comes from education system, Hollywood, big tech, and mainstream media. And that's laid out, that plan. The last one, the fifth one, I would say is big business, but that goes in line with big tech and the media. But
business, big tech, and bank.
It's all laid out in the Naked Communist. It's crazy to see how a set of goals that was written more than 60 years ago is coming to fruition today.
Yeah. So how the hell did a 22-year-old get so switched on to not buy into all the bullshit? Because you would have been indoctrinated at school. You would have had people around you telling you that you need to toe the line, and the government loves you, and that, you know, all these fucking lunatics think that you're wonderful and that you should be very supportive and lucky to have your government love you. Why are you rebelling? How dare you?
Well, I've always been a rebellious child. I've had a lot of problems in school. Being I was very rude to my teachers, especially the ones that were like, some teachers were entitled and thought that they were like better than you. And they're the teachers I fucking hated, and I would do everything just to fucking not do it. I think it's the right phrase. I had a really controlling mother, and so I was always like, if anyone tried to tell me what to do, I was like, nah, fuck you. But what really got me woken up to all this stuff is watching politics. And I started keeping up with fucking Donald Trump because he's funny. Like, no one can deny that Trump is the funniest guy in the world. I reckon he's one of the funniest guys in the world. And just watching everything going out, the way he fucking manipulates people and back and forth with reporters and stuff got me interested in politics. And I started watching everything that was going on. And I started to realize that, like, a lot of things are, like, a lot of the time popular belief is not the truth.
Yep.
So it's called groupthink. Everyone knows about groupthink, but groupthink is where if everyone else believes something, then it must be true.
Well, mate, once upon a time, slavery was considered standard. That was legal. That was the government. That's okay. That's normal. Let's keep these black fellas on chain gangs. That's all right. What's the problem there? Or women should be allowed to. Oh, we get a bit of feedback there.
Sorry, I just was scratching my foot.
Oh, it's all right. So, mate, look, pretty good. Why we are getting a little bit of feedback there.
No, so
it's all right. It might be.
So I started noticing, right, as I was saying, these things like the popular belief is not always correct. In fact, it's almost always incorrect. I think, and because of groupthink, but I think the reason is, hear myself echoing like Jesus. The reason the popular belief is so often wrong in our society is because we live in a society, we live in a time of universal deceit. And that's why the official narrative is always incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I can't hear myself echoing.
Sorry?
Like Jesus. I can hear myself echoing. Like mad echo.
Well, you there? You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, that's right. A little bit of a delay. That's normal. Semi-normal.
It's echoing. It's echoing. It's echoing back to me.
Yeah, right. Okay, fair enough. I don't know.
Just ignore it. Whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started listening to politics and understanding, and I just started getting obsessed with it because I'm a really weird sort of obsessive guy. I'll just obsess over weird shit sometimes. And so I started getting obsessed with politics and trying to understand what's going on and trying to look at it from all different angles. And I started reading different books about different things. A great book I read that really blew my mind was a book. It was by the guy who founded Jim Penman. His name's Jim Penman. He wrote a book called Biohistory: The Decline and Fall of the West. And it talks about the way that we raise our children affects society, and how the way we're raised has a massive effect on the way our society functions. And it basically is focused on the collapse of Rome, because Jim was obsessed with the collapse of Rome, wanted to figure out why the Roman Empire collapsed. And it just blew my mind, because it talks about what's called lemming cycles, where when the population, when the birth rate within a population goes up, right? When the birth rate within a population goes up, say the birth rate's 7, the average person's having 5 kids, that's the time when a country's population is most politically united.
Okay, yeah.
Just temperamentally, people will temperamentally be united politically. Just that's how their temperament will be. That's how instinctively, naturally, that's how they'll be, right? And when the birth rate drops heaps, that's when people will naturally, just by pure instinct, they'll naturally be divided politically. And that's when people will want to jump on board with stupid movements without even fucking deciding like whether it makes sense or not. And they'll just join a team. Hey, let's join a team and fight, right? And so, part of the reason for like the American Civil War was, part of it was just the fact that there were, there was the political reasons for the war, which were America I'm talking about, which were things like the fact that what's his name? Abraham Lincoln wanted to outlaw slavery, and the South knew that, even though he was saying, no, you can keep your slaves. We're not going to outlaw slavery. You can keep your slaves. They thought, no, fuck that. We're leaving America. We know you're going to try and fuck with us. We know you're going to try and take your slaves. But the reason that the soldiers, right, the people from the South, they were willing to listen to leaders that were more local to their area, right? Yeah, and that's what drove the war. Think about it. If you had a situation where the South, let's just use Australian example. Let's say you had Victoria. Victoria decided didn't want to be part of Australia, right? Jan Andrews decides we're no longer part of Australia. We don't want any. If no one's willing to fight, that's not going to work, right? Because unless the population is actually willing to fight to defend this idea that Victoria's going to leave Australia, we're doing it. And we're going to fight you if you come near us. And if you send the army and Scott Morrison, we're going to get our guns out and try and fight you. It's not going to work, right? The army would just come in, they drag out Daniel Andrews, he'd go to prison for treason, and that'd be it, right? So in order to have like a civil war, the population has to be willing to fight the actual like federal government, right? And when the birth rate gets really low, people temperamentally, as I said before, they're more politically divided, but they also want to take orders from their local leader or someone who's more familiar to them, right? So they'll take orders from someone like the leader of this. I can't remember who the leaders were in the American Civil War, but just the fact that they were more local to the South is what made people. But if that happened when the birth rate was high, those people would have said, "No, we're loyal to America. We're loyal to the United States. We're loyal to Abraham Lincoln. We're part of America. We're not fighting those people. That's what would happen if the birth rate was high." And so a civil war would never happen like that if the birth rate was high. So that book blew my mind. I couldn't believe that there was psychology that drove civil wars and things like that. And I started trying to look at it from every different angle and all the angles and this one and looking from here and up, we're looking up here and we're looking at it under here, right? And I started trying to understand what was going on. And that's kind of the drive to understand what was going on, and just the COVID pandemic happened at just the right time, and I had just the right context to not be really dogmatic or closed-minded to what's going on. If that makes sense.
Yeah, mate. It looks to me like you've just hit the sweet spot, and well done. I applaud you on it. I also applaud you on your actual critical and free thinking, because fucking that just doesn't happen anymore, and it drives me mad. I love asking questions. I love challenging government. I love anybody who does, anybody who thinks the government is there to protect them and love them and treat them right is really not paying any attention. You mentioned before we went on air about these globalist pedophiles taking over the world. From what I can see, they're giving it a red-hot crack at taking over the world. And it takes people like yourself to stand up and have a red-hot crack at giving a bit back to these bastards. Otherwise they're just going to get it free reign. Victoria proved that. They just bent over and took it in the ass because Dan Andrews told them to. You are scared and you will be compliant, and we did nothing. It's pretty embarrassing from an old bloke like me.
It was actually sad to see, man. When I went down to Victoria, it was actually just depressing, man. I couldn't believe that all these people were wearing masks and had completely given up their freedom. It was like, holy fuck, this is just miserable. I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't be going down that easy. Fuck that. Like, it's just sad to see. It's disappointing to see people so unwilling to stand up for themselves. Anyone who's willing to wear a mask has no self-respect.
No, fuck, mate. I'm with you. I'm out here in the bush, and I don't care. I'm always upsetting people. It's one of my hobbies. It's great to hear that there are young blokes coming through, because, I mean, I get the feeling your energy levels are about what mine were 5 years ago. I got political 5, 6, 7 years ago, started to really get into this fight, and now I get to sit here and talk to a young bloke like you who's coming out swinging a bit like I did back then. So I'm really looking forward to see how far you push it. I'm also looking forward to supporting you as we go forward. I'd love to sort of get you on the program kind of regularly. I'd love to sort of showcase you to as many people as possible. And fuck, let's get a heap of t-shirts made up, mate. I've got no problem. We can do t-shirts. You want to pimp t-shirts? We pimp t-shirts. I don't mind, mate. I'm all out for it. As long as the only rule I have is they've got to really offend some arsehole like Bill Gates, or even if Scott Morrison has a meltdown, or Xi Jinping, or whatever his friggin' name is in China. If they're having meltdowns, I'm fucking pretty good. I sleep good at night when those assholes are upset, because I don't trust any of them as far as I can kick them, mate.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, all the stuff that's going on with China and Australia. I mean, is that all just is that political theatre? I mean, I kind of feel like it's political theatre. Like Scott Morrison, the Chinese just refusing to apologise, and what the fuck are we talking about, man? China owns half of our shit. They own the port, they're leased the port in Darwin for 90 years or whatever. They own all sorts of infrastructure in Australia. You want to talk about like, and we're supposed to pretend that China and Australia have like a really bad relationship, and like we're not getting along with them. Well, why do they own half of our stuff?
Yeah, because our politicians for the last 40, 50 years have been fucking spineless, mate. That's exactly why they do.
So why are we pretending that? Why doesn't Scott Morrison just admit that he's sucking Xi Jinping's dick? Why does he have to pretend that like, come on, we know that's all bullshit.
And I get into all these fucking arguments with people. People go, the Liberal Party, it's the Liberal Party's fault, it's the Labor Party. Bullshit, right? Both of these entities are fucking rotten to the core. They've sold us out to the Chinese for fucking years. I've got evidence up to the walls with all the dodgy shit that they've done, or an ex-Liberal Party minister's gone and done this, and an ex-Labor Party minister, and they're all in on the fucking joke. The only ones who aren't in on the joke are the Australian people who are still fighting over the red and blue team. It's like, listen, they're all communists, the whole fucking lot of them.
Yeah. The thing is, the most obvious piece of evidence, this is what I think about. This is what I've noticed for years, and it's always bothered me, is how come we've had three terms of the Liberal Party in Australia now. Why is it the government never gets smaller? How come they never cut spending? This is a right-wing government here. What it seems we've got the left wing party, which is the Liberal Party, and then we've got the Communist Party, which is the Labor Party. But there doesn't seem to be a right wing party. There just seems to be the Liberal Party, which pretends to be a right wing party. But government keeps getting bigger, government spending keeps going up, government control keeps going up. Where's our freedom? And this is happening all over the world.
There's no secret with my audience that I'm fairly well tied in as a Liberal Democrat, the Australian version, not the fucking English version, because that's embarrassing. Yeah. And we are libertarians, and we're solid, and we're sitting here saying the same thing. I got a world full of shit during the Eden Monaro by-election because I put I think on my how to vote cards there were 14 candidates. I put the Greens last because I can't bring myself anywhere else. I put the Liberal Party second last. I put the Labor Party third last, and the Nationals fourth last out of 14 contenders. And I had people from both communist teams going, well, how could you put them above us? And how dare you fucking support the Labor Party? I said, I've put you in the bottom 4 places out of 14. None of you were endorsed. I just couldn't get you off the fucking ballot. I'd like to see the arse end.
You couldn't decide which one you hated more.
Yeah. All of you are corrupt to shit, and I don't want to support any of you for assholes. And I had all these, Liberal Party people come at me. Actually, the Liberal Party got really offended, and I had members coming at me really fucking hardcore, going, "How dare you put those communists before us?" I said, the only difference between their communism and yours is they're upfront about it. You fuckers are just sneaky and dishonest. They're at least loud and proud being communists. They'll outright say they want to take all your shit and have a big government. You fuckers go, oh, we're for reducing government as it's growing day on day. Fuck off. You blokes are just the biggest hypocrites. It's not funny. And
both parties are headed for the same place. I think the Liberal Party's going there a little bit slower than the Labor Party, but they're both headed for the same destination. It's pretty obvious.
Same great big pile of globalist shit where we're basically worker bees doing for our overlords, and I'm fucked if I'm having it. It won't be happening on my watch, that's for sure.
Fuck that, mate. I'm going to fighting if it comes down to it. Fuck that. I'm definitely not trying. I'm not becoming a slave, mate. Not becoming a slave. Because that's what communism is. Communism is really just a form of slavery. But instead of being owned by some sort of owner, you're owned by the government. And the government's controlled by pedophiles. So the pedophiles will own you folks. So you don't want to be a slave to a pedophile. That's so much worse than being a slave to some fucking farmer or some shit. Slave to a pedophile, man. Fuck that. I'm not being owned by a pedophile. I'm not doing it.
No, fuck, no chance. Not a fucking hope in hell, mate.
Fucking nuts. It's nuts how crazy the world's getting. A lot of the people aren't even noticing. Half the people aren't even fucking noticing. They just think nothing's weird's going on. And the other half of it is trying to wake up them, or trying to fucking say, wake up, you stupid people. But you have to be crazy to see what's going to happen.
You've got to understand that you're going to be called mad. That's the trick. Are you thick-skinned enough for every second person, at least, probably 9 out of every 10 people you meet are going to go, oh, you're probably pushing it a bit far. You're probably a bit mad. Oh, there might be a little bit of merit in what you're saying. And you're sitting there going, no.
Man, when I started doing videos, man, I started getting all these all these people started coming, agreeing with me on the street, and they walked past my table. But also heaps of people that I haven't spoken to in years were messaging me on Instagram or Facebook, or just people I haven't spoken to in years were just sending me messages and stuff. And it's actually not the way you're describing it. It's actually so much more there's a lot of people who know what's going on or are open-minded, and they don't voice their opinion. I reckon if everyone spoke up today, if everyone started speaking out on Facebook today, if everyone was doing what we're doing right now, right? If everyone was doing what we're doing, speaking up and talking about it, this would be over tomorrow. Because I have friends who are...
100%. 100%, mate. The people are scared.
It's bizarre. Why the hell are you scared, bro? Speak up, man. Our ancestors ran into gunfire to protect our freedom, and you won't even speak up on Facebook or have a conversation with your parents? What is wrong with you? What the fuck? I think the problem is that people don't understand the threat involved or how bad what's coming is going to be if we let this continue. People kind of are complacent. Oh, it's not too bad. Like, and that's the problem, complacency. And if people understood where we're going, which is full-blown 1984, right? Worse than 1984, George Orwell could never have predicted where we're going. He didn't know that we were going to have tracking chips and mind control and all sorts of fucked up genetic engineering and shit, right? He never knew that was going. If people knew the proper destination where we were going, they would be along. It's because they sort of disconnected with it. They think it's going to be all good. It's all complacency, and they're kind of just letting it slide. And that's a big problem. We need to stop doing that.
Fucking oath it is, mate. Fucking oath it is. Now, we're coming up on time relative to this episode, but I am, if you're interested, happy to have you on again when we restart for Series 3. I'd love to fucking follow this journey with you. Where can everybody find you? So I only found you by default. Dia messaged me and said, hey, you're going to love talking to this guy, and gave us the hook up. Where do people find you? Are you doing a website yet, or are you just Facebooking and Instagramming and all that sort of shit? Where are you at?
I've just got Facebook and Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel as well, but I haven't been posting videos there yet, but I'm probably going to start, especially if we do longer videos. I'll be posting a lot of them on YouTube. I'm not sure how YouTube's going to go with all the censorship and stuff. I think Facebook's probably better because it can be organic and people can share all the videos everywhere. So Facebook, my Facebook's Lochie Kavanagh. My Instagram's Lochie Kavanagh. YouTube's Lochie Kavanagh. Everything's just Lochie Kavanagh. So you can find me on Facebook.
The best bit about that, mate, that I really like is you're not hiding behind a pseudonym and a computer screen. You've got your name on the board and you've got your fucking face out there. I see so many keyboard warriors. And look, yeah, okay, we're doing this digitally now, but so many people are hiding behind their computer screen and there's pseudonyms and all this fucking bullshit because they're afraid of getting tracked down. And it's like the people that are actually our enemies, these over-the-top globalists, mate, they can track us all down. I don't care what you call yourself online.
Exactly. You know? Of course they can. Of course they can. They can listen to our conversation right now. If we have our phone on in a room, they can hear what we're saying.
Of course, yeah. And these poor deluded think they're hiding behind an alias or a pseudonym. Like maybe that worked in the 1800s. It's not going to work in 2020. You got a mobile phone. These son of bitches can find you.
Plus, I want all my friends and family members to know what I'm doing as well, because like they're gonna see my fucking videos. When they can see my Facebook page grow, and they can watch in bewilderment as my video gets 10,000 views, right? Or like all this sort of shit, and they can see all the comments, 100 comments of people saying, "Oh, fucking good on you, mate." But that's got to wake people up. Because my family are probably the biggest sheeple ever. My brother's the fucking biggest sheep ever, and whenever I talk to him about it, he's just got the dumbest. It's just no critical thinking going on. So my dad's just no critical thinking going on either. But I think like just the fact that I'm posting videos, I'm doing this shit, I think slowly they'll wake up the fuck up to what's going on. I mean, if I'm getting all these views and people are starting to follow me and they're interested in what's going on and all this sort of stuff, I think they'll start to think, maybe there's some truth to what he's saying. So I'm not going to hide behind anything. Fuck that.
Beautiful work. I absolutely love it, mate. And I'm happy to help out any way I can as an old bastard who's been doing this sort of stuff for a little while. The internet-y stuff's not my forte, but as far as the real world stuff goes, mate, I'm all in there. You've fallen in with a solid crowd from what I can see. You seem to be working with some big guns, which is top stuff. And I understand you're going to go and have a party with my Liberal Democrat brothers and sisters tomorrow night for the Christmas party, which I can't attend, unfortunately, but you'll have a good time with those maniacs.
I remember you said before that you're a libertarian, and that's a strange, it's a word you don't hear very often, right? But it shouldn't even be a word, because 200 years ago, right, the West was libertarian. That's what it was. It wasn't a word for it. It's not such thing as the word libertarian. Everyone was a fucking libertarian. That was called life. That was called freedom.
Yeah, we lived our lives and we operated, and I don't actually see myself as any sort of a radical at all in real world context. I'm only a radical relative to all these nannies state, everybody who's terrified, I can't do this because, council hasn't approved it or the government hasn't given me a fucking yes, or listen, fuck off. I don't answer to any of those people. None of them pay my bills for me. They can bash it up their ass. And the more Australians who get back to their home being their castle, their lives being their own, their families being their families, as opposed to their families at the mercy of the state, the sooner the better, mate. The sooner the better. And we need more young blokes like you standing up and fighting. So, ladies and gentlemen, everybody tune in. Jump on Lochie's videos because he's the sort of young guy that will go viral and go batshit. And us old heads need to support him a little bit, and I think that's pretty important. I was lucky I had some really good older blokes guiding me through this sort of journey a little bit, and Lochie looks like the sort of guy who's going to be the next incarnation, which that fills me, makes me all warm and fuzzy, mate. There's some hope. There's some
until it gets censored. Who knows when's that's going to be? Probably not for a while because I've only got a few. You know, everyone seems to be able to get reasonably big before they get censored. I don't think it'll happen unless they get massive. But I guess we'll see how it goes.
Mate, look, see how it goes. I've been watching the YouTube subscribers on Resolute. They went up, they started to skyrocket, and then all of a sudden they go down a little bit, then they go up again, then they go down a bit, and you'd sort of go, well, that's really fucking weird. Normally, there's a fluctuation and whatever and all that sort of shit. And I don't really get the analytics, but I kind of look at it, and I know quite a few friends of mine that are far more serious on the YouTube side of things than what I am. And some of them have had some really big drops where you just relative to their subscribers just drop, and they're not sure why, and there's no rhyme or reason. And, you know, it is what it is, mate. But as I've said, relative to my program is I want to create solid programming like this whereby even if they censor me, ban me, if there's no fucking subscribers and we do end up in that communist utopia, I hope some little rebel 100 years' time sits there and finds these videos and goes, hang on, some people were fighting. How the fuck did we end up here? If that's all I achieve, I'll have done my bit, mate.
Well, even if I get censored, the thing is, even if we get censored, right, people still know who the fuck we are. We can move over to fucking Parler or whatever comes to replace Facebook, and hopefully there'll be a censorship-free version of Facebook soon that will fuck Facebook up the arse and Mark Zuckerberg can fuck right off. That'd be perfect. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Parler's blowing up. Why is Parler blowing up? Because no one wants to have their tweets bloody censored by some pedophile, some dodgy pedophile who wants to pretend he's all virtuous, right? Oh, I'm virtuous by censoring your tweets.
Something that'll hurt my feelings.
Yeah. But I had my Facebook account shut. I don't know what happened to it, but I can't do lives. And I can't boost my thing on. And the reason is because I made a comment that was offensive.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, and I've offered it to a few others. They haven't really jumped on it too heavily yet. But if ever you get blocked, blocked, and I'm not blocked, banned, just use my shit because I don't care. I have no fear of being censored. I have no fear of being banned, and I'm actually in the process of working on a bit of a concept and I haven't actually let anybody know this, but you'd be the perfect candidate to join the little fucking crew that we're working with. To create our own version of an entire website similar to what's been done by Crowder and McGuinness and all those sort of guys, where they basically run their own programs on their own websites and fuck YouTube and whatever, like the people who want to find us will find us, and that'll be all
the
good.
Australian Freedom Network.
Yeah. Exactly right. I own the rights to the term the Dissident Squad. So technically, the Dissident Squad Media is a business name that I own, which would fit something along those lines. Anyway, we're playing with a few ideas, and there's a couple of people obviously in on it. So it could be something you might find fun as well, because you know what? We're all going to eventually get kicked off Twitter. We're all going to get kicked off Facebook. We're all going to get kicked off fucking, I don't know, YouTube, all the rest of it.
People watching us so that we can make money from it. That'd be great. I'd love to do this living. Talking to people, debating, having podcasts, whatever. I think I'm the perfect personality for it. You sound like you do too. But if we could get enough people watching us, right, to wake all the sheep up. Come on, guys, come on. Don't watch the TV anymore. Don't watch the pedophiles tell you. But then all of those news presenters are all narcissists, man. They're paid to lie to you. Just fuck them off. Come listen to us. We're going to speak the truth.
Talking heads, paid to tell bullshit, whereas I'm not paid to tell bullshit. I just find as much information as I can and I put it out there. And, and I only invite guests on this program who I think have some merit and some integrity. That's one of our key areas. We didn't name it Dean McRae TV because I don't give a rat's ass. We named it Resolute because I think it's a good word for the times that we're living in. And, mate, you fit the bill. You know, we've got great guys like David Lionhelm, who I have a lot of time for. We have guys like Lloyd Russell, Ross Cameron, Jeffrey Tucker, Topher Field. I've had, you know, all these people who have run for various levels of presidency and governors and things like that in America. We've got this amazing group of people, and I still network with all of them. We've got Ricardo Bosey here in Australia who's doing some great work as well. He's slightly less libertarian, but he's still in the sphere of.
He's enough libertarian. He's enough of a libertarian for me to support him. I couldn't believe it, man. When I first heard of Ricardo Bosey on, I think it was The Line in the Sand. It was a live stream, and I watched it. And he said he was ex-special forces, and he's starting his own political party. And I thought, what does this fucking guy know about politics? He's just a, you know, tough guy from the army. And I went and just watched one of his things, just for the sake of it, one of his presentations. I thought, fuck, this guy is talking about everything I would do if I was the Prime Minister, except he knows fucking 10 times more about everything he's talking about. And he wants to ban the indoctrination about children. He wants to fucking stop them teaching weird gender ideologies to kids. He wants to bring a national sales tax to replace all the income taxes. I couldn't fucking believe it when I was listening to this guy. I was thinking, this is all the good ideas combined. You just got all the guys to put them into a blender. And I was thinking, fucking hell, man, I want to join Ricardo Bosey's political party when it gets ready.
Ricardo is absolutely a top bloke, and anybody who's ever asked, he was number 2 on my ticket for Eden Monero, and I was his number 2. So, you know, when you do your how to vote cards, I had Bosey number 2, he had McRae number 2. And anybody who I sort of talk to who's a little bit more conservative leaning than Liberal Democrat, I sort of say, well, stay away from the fucking Liberal Party. Go and join Australia One and support Rick. And I have a feeling that he does fairly similar for us as far as things go. There are some people who may be just that little bit more libertarian leaning as opposed to conservative leaning, and he'll sort of send them in my direction, and we try and work together like that, mate. So having another bloke on the team, so to speak, would be fantastic, mate. Thank you for your time tonight. You better go and have a beer or do some more research or whatever it is you do on a Thursday night at 10:30 at night. Mate, appreciate you being a guest on Resolute TV. It's been fucking fun having you here. I love your energy. Let's do it again sometime soon.
We'll do it again sometime soon. Maybe once I start selling my shirts, we'll see how it goes. Maybe once I start selling my shirts, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to have some fucking funny shirts to put out there, man.
Mate, look, I've got a company that does them at a pretty decent price, so I can always point you in the direction.
The goal is just to make them hilarious so people are going to buy and funny shit.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this particular episode of Resolute TV. Remember, if you want to support us, we offer you t-shirts, hemp products, and we even have a phone number. And just be sure to like, subscribe, and share it around. Bye.